Hey kids, you like pro wrestling? Well, we like pro wrestling too. This week in the news, WWE and ESPN gets their deal going. The lazy river of wrestling criticism, Forbidden Door preview. And in Vader Club this week, we don't know yet. Chris has the show to figure out something to talk about because I figure we're going to be snarking a lot, so I want something positive.
Yeah,
So,
I'm thinking I'm going to remind people of the good old days of New Japan from like 10 years ago because watching Dad Bod Tanahashi this week made me very, very sad. I know he's 48, but that high fly flow was not it was
not
not
high
flowing,
and not
not
flowing.
high and not flowing. Yeah.
It's like somebody has an elbow drop where it's just it's Okada. When Okada does his elbow drop, he doesn't really jump. He just kind of falls with it.
It was reminiscent. The high fly flow that Tanahashi did was reminiscent of like Jeff Hardy doing the swanton now, where it's like a sack of potatoes just falls on the guy who's laying down on the ground.
And you just watch the guy and you go, this was a poor choice, but it's such a legendary move. I love watching guys take those swantons now because Jeff doesn't know. Jeff has no interest in shifting his weight to take most of it. He's just gonna land on you, and you're gonna say, "Thank you, Jeff Hardy. You're a legend."
No, the man's body hurts too much, so he's just perfectly content on transferring that pain to you.
Oh, Chris, have you ever watched two people in a relationship and they decide that, well, they don't want to break up necessarily, they do want to see other people, and then one of them immediately goes and starts having sex with somebody else and they really like it and they want to tell the other person all about it? Well, that's WWE and Peacock and ESPN. The WWE deal with ESPN is debuting 7 months earlier than had been announced, with the first show on the new ESPN app being WrestlePalooza, the September 20th show from Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, headlined by John Cena versus Brock Lesnar. Also announced for the show are Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch, CM Punk, and Drew McIntyre. Interestingly, the WWE did not advertise Lesnar for the show. They've also announced Pat McAfee will make a one-show return because it's in Indianapolis. WWE and Peacock announced a new multi-year partnership to exclusively stream Saturday night's main event on Peacock. Some highlights for the press release: Saturday night's main event will be exclusive to Peacock and no longer air on NBC. The final two Saturday night main events have been announced for this year, November 1st, and John Cena's retirement match will now be exclusively on streaming on December 13th. The November 1st show is tentatively set for Salt Lake City with the idea of a Halloween night SmackDown the night before in the city, according to WrestleVotes. Pause. I can't think of any place more in tune with a Halloween-themed event than the Mormon city of Salt Lake City, Utah.
Of the Four Corners state, Utah is our redheaded stepchild. You have Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah.
where to celebrate the celebration of the dark arts? Salt Lake City. It should be noted that historically, a SmackDown on Halloween takes a ratings hit. Oh, no kidding. Although it was more of a hit more than a decade ago when the teenage and kids viewership was much larger. This shows
what's crazy about Salt Lake City, Jeff? Sorry to interrupt here. How many people would you say are in Salt Lake City?
I think it's rather large, and I think there's a rather large Samoan process.
Yeah. How big? Give me a number, Jeff.
In Salt Lake City?
Yeah, population of Salt Lake City.
Well, see, I just said it's large, but I don't think it's that large. I'm going to go with 3 million.
What if I told you it's less than Boise, Idaho at
Whoa.
a ripe 217,000, which is half the population of Albuquerque proper.
Hold on. Salt Lake City, Utah only has 217,000 people?
That's what they're saying here on the Googs and on Wikipedia. Population as of 2024, 217,783.
That sounds
Metro
wrong.
population's 1.2.
1.2 million?
Yeah, which is
Okay.
about Albuquerque's proper
All
metro. But
right.
yeah, the actual Salt Lake City population, only 217.
Huh.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
not that
I know
big.
that I know
Yeah.
they've had an issue with Samoan gangs in in Utah. It's very which hey, the bloodline will be over. It'll be great. Here's Dave Meltzer editorializing. This shows that WWE was unable to get NBC and Peacock to agree on a date change to December 27th to go head to head with AEW World's End. Okay. By putting the
Okay.
Cena retirement on as opposition. So the Cena show moves from NBC to a streaming exclusive. Pause. I don't think a lot of people are going to watch December 27th World's End. Maybe it's just
I
me. That's a
no,
Saturday.
I
By then, the
do,
NFL will also be on Saturday night. So,
that
yeah.
weekend is an atrocious weekend to do television because the 25th through the 31st or the first of the year, that week, everyone's doing something. So you know that TV viewership's going to be down. It's family vacation time,
Yeah.
it's Christmas time, it's New Year's. People go and travel and do stuff and don't watch TV. I mean, I don't know. Maybe
The
I'm
the
not
NFL
understanding the
again has the
psychology in the
yeah.
office, but yeah,
The NF the
I
NF
don't see this as a big win.
yeah, the NFL is spread to Saturdays. College bowl games are going on. And that's the Saturday, not the Sunday even. So, but thoughts on WWE rushing to get onto this ESPN new streaming app, and also no more Saturday night's events on NBC. They're now just on the streamings platform, which kind of is the brave new world of risking things. Because I just think broadcast television still exists for a lot of people because people don't want to bother with streaming. But your thoughts?
Yeah. I think ESPN's a good move for WWE. I think it has always, I mean, if you're looking back historically, right? McMahon was always obsessed at various points throughout his tenure in getting legitimacy on ESPN and getting ESPN to talk about wrestling as part of the sports milieu. And now with this, ESPN's at least going to have to mention WWE stuff. No, they're not going to break it down on Sports Center like that, but they might actually do a little 30-second toss about Saturday night's main event or something on
Well,
Sports Center now.
what they do is what they call the car wash, which is all the morning talk shows and facts versus volume arguments and stuff. And so they've had this before because they did this with Roman Reigns. I think they did this with Cody. And actually properties that they've acquired, like they've acquired the Rich Eisen show, and both The Miz and Seth Rollins go on there and talk football a lot.
That's what I was about to say. So then the
But they
other thing that you can do is start putting on talents onto ESPN shows and do a talent exchange, talent show, talent promoting thing. And if you're on like the other thing I think that's missing from this equation, because we're thinking about this so much as a TV deal. And obviously, radio is a dying art. See your retired former politics podcaster here. But people still do listen to radio in the car. And insofar as they do, sports radio still very much exists, and ESPN runs that. So that gives WWE a much, much larger access point to car radio, which is a thing that they heretofore have not had really any meaningful way of getting access to, other than like the occasional local radio spot or whatever. If you're on, it's what's the Stephen A. Smith or whatever, right? You could get that kind of exposure on ESPN radio and that sort of thing. So I think there's a number of benefits to this ESPN relationship that NBC is not able to provide, given ESPN's radio profile.
not just that, but ESPN's new app is actually quite technologically advanced compared to Peacock because you can stream multiple games slash whatevers at once. I think you can get up to 4 on your television.
Oh, cool.
So so if you want to watch a college football game on Saturday night, you can also put on, if there's a PLE, you put that on a second screen for either, and keep up with it, or for the kids or whoever. You're not actually competing against the same things on ESPN that you would on like television, where you had to have like a second screen set up for things. I'm gonna be very interested in this. I don't think. See, I think there will be certain sports personalities that'll be game for having wrestlers in cross promotion, and of course you have Joe Tess, who works at ESPN as well. And you have McAfee. They could go on I mean, when wrestlers go on McAfee, that gets eyeballs. It does.
Right.
Yeah, even if it's Brock Lesnar or Vince McMahon. But yeah, I actually, I'm going to find this interesting. Now, a lot of people were like, oh, did you notice that the ESPN website took down the AEW section of their website? And that thing hasn't worked in like 3 or 4 months. It hasn't worked, actually. And Meltzer also opined about this since the CM Punk interview about Hangman got leaked to a bunch of various wrestling sources by Tony Khan. That relationship has soured quite a bit. The ESPN Tony Khan relationship, because they were all in on that, because that was the Meadowlark, the people who later split off of ESPN to go do Meadowlark Media, the Dan Lebitard of the world, were actually into AEW being the good company narrative. And so they'd have Tony Khan and Chris Jericho and other people on their shows quite a bit when they were still on ESPN. So that it's going to be interesting. Look, ESPN has always had wrestling. That's the weird thing that a lot of people don't know. They had the AWA, they had World Class, they had Global when I was a kid.
I was going to say, I used to do Global refeeds when I was captioning. I used to caption Global when they would run it on ESPN. Then they'd run it on like ESPN Classic or whatever. But no, they've always had wrestling on there, and they've never been fully ideologically opposed to having professional wrestling on there as sports entertainment.
Because ESPN is entertainment and sports presentation network. They've always kind of been doing that. I mean, there were times where the NWA almost got onto ESPN, I believe, at one time too. I was thinking Southwest and USA. Never mind. But yeah, no, when I was a kid and I first got cable, I loved it because I could watch. The AWA was on Tuesdays, and I believe World Class reruns were on Thursdays. So I could get all that going. And then eventually what became Global, I forget the original name of it, but what became the Global Wrestling Federation would then be snuggled in between on Wednesday reruns. Global was an interesting company.
Yeah. Global's a weird one.
It was good. That was the first place I saw the Lightning Kid, aka Sean Waltman.
Yes, and he's very good in there. I like him. Like his Global run, I think he's extraordinarily entertaining.
And then there was stuff that was just trash, like Chaz and the cage and the thing, and also I hated the Max Andrews angle, which would be the progenitor for management of wrestling companies becoming heels. Before Eric Bischoff ever thought about it, there was the Max Andrews and the Cartel angle, and the Cartel was
Cartel was terrible too.
Cactus Jack. Yeah. Muckin Singh, a.k.a. Norman the Lunatic from WCW, if you remember him in that. Rip Rogers and Scotty the Body Flamingo, a.k.a. Raven. Which was an interesting little
but
stable.
With like no chemistry whatsoever.
None.
No, like no cohesion, no chemistry. And like sometimes a heel faction works where it just looks like 4 guys who don't belong together and they're only bonded by money. But sometimes it also just feels like you've taken 4 random dudes and just given them some shit to do.
Mike Davis and his brother. I remember them.
Yeah.
And that was also the first place I ever saw Harlem Heat. They were the Ebony Experience.
Yeah, and like Hollywood John
They were
Tatum's
rough.
there.
Oh yeah, John Tatum. I mean, they had guys. In
I
there
felt like
that
he's an upper mid card gem for that company.
What was Jack Victory with him too, or was it just Tatum?
Yes, sometimes.
Yeah,
sometimes.
Because,
I mean, and then there were times where he had the girl, his girlfriend.
Was that Sunshine? Was that Chris Adams' ex?
Sunshine,
I think.
Yeah, I think Sunshine. Yeah,
because they left UWF when shortly after they got bought out by the NWA, and the NWA/WCW didn't pick them up. So they went and they picked up Jack Victory eventually, because Jack Victory kind of became WCW's all-inclusive mass jobber. Like he'd
jobber,
work,
right.
He'd work 3 times. He'd be like the terrorist. He'd be Russian assassin number 2, and he'd be Secret Service Jack Victory and pick up 3 checks hopefully in that night. I love the Tatum and Victory team. I do, but John Tatum was kind of like left hanging in the wind after Missy Hyatt broke up with him. So
yeah, and he really is. He's really the charisma of that. You know,
because Jack Victory had no charisma.
None.
And I love Jack Victory. I do. In the New Zealand militia, I liked him. He's just a big dude, and it wasn't great, but I still like him. There are rumors that Chris Jericho is going back to WWE, and here's the logline. The only thing we heard from WWE regarding Chris Jericho is that they expect him to come back to the company. You know who's fueling all these rumors about Chris Jericho and where he's going, Chris?
The same person who's always fueling the rumors around Chris Jericho. Chris
Jericho. Yes, exactly. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, the person who the leaks are usually about are usually the ones feeding the leaks. Much like I liken this to a issue with my favorite football team right now, the Cincinnati Bengals. We have a hold-in named Trey Hendrickson, defensive end. And there are leaks about, the Bengals are seeking a trade, and they've said that, and it's said that the Browns and the Panthers, who are 2 terrible franchises, are interested. You know who threw that rumor out there, Chris?
The Bengals.
Was it the Bengals? It was the Trey Hendrickson's people that tell people, hey, these terrible see, that's just it. Companies and teams don't leak. The only time they leak is when it's going to hurt a player's value in some way. In terms of, they found an injury or something.
You should tell that to Tony Khan, because I feel like he breaks that axiom you just dropped.
Yes, well, I think he definitely leaked some things about certain talent he's not going to use. Let's put it that way. But most of the talent he's not going to use have kind of a gag order that for good behavior they'll get released a little bit early, from what I know. Chris Jericho is trying to get more money here, and there's nothing wrong with it. Yes, he has a lot of money. It's always good to have more money, though, especially when it's going to probably be
I gotta push back against this, Jeff.
Okay.
There is something wrong with this. There is something wrong with this.
Okay, what is it?
I say, I don't like him. He's boring.
Yes, I don't like him either necessarily.
Like he stinks. I don't want to watch him anymore. And that is,
I'm
morally objecting based off of that.
Well, I should have seen that one coming, and I didn't see it coming. But there it was. Look, I don't need whatever clever, dumbass rationalization
joke he gets off of YouTube that he turns into a gimmick for 8 months
for a T-shirt, or hey, I saw this movie, and what I'm really doing is this character, because there's no way
he's gonna bring back the Rizzler and Big Boom AJ. That's gonna be his new faction, because he's always a year and a half behind.
That Anton, the thing that he called, look, I liked the quiet, scowling gimmick where he's in a suit. But saying that's Anton Chigurh is a bridge too far for me.
I know.
Right? I mean, Cormac McCarthy's a creep, again, but that character's awesome. It's kind of like saying, "Oh man, I read Blood Meridian and I took this part of this terrible wrestling character from Judge Holden." It's like you did not take any such. Judge Holden is an awesome character, by the way, but there's no way you can.
Or like watching There Will Be Blood, but not taking anything beyond drainage as your new gimmick.
Yes, he does a weird voice. Oh, I'm trying to be Daniel Plainview. Yes. I made fun of Edge for doing that once because he did a promo like Daniel Plainview. And I was just like, you got to be kidding me, dude. Stop that.
We'll get to those two here in a bit too. They're sticking at the joint.
Reports came out on August 21st that indicated the death of Terry Bollea, aka Hulk Hogan, may have been due to medical malpractice, and there are now investigations ongoing. Listen carefully to this one, kids. TMZ reported that the Clearwater Police Department report said that an occupational therapist was at Bolea's house when he stopped breathing. The full report is currently confidential, but it apparently stated that the therapist told the officers who responded that Bollea was the victim of medical malpractice. The therapist said during a recent operation, unclear whether it was a recent heart surgery or neck surgery, that the surgeon severed Bollea's phrenic nerve. The nerve is connected to the diaphragm and controls breathing. TMZ said that fatal heart attack was not a chest-clenching situation, and instead he had stopped breathing. TMZ reported his wife noted he stopped breathing, and they called 911. The statements from the therapist over the phrenic nerve being severed in surgery was talked about and is believed to be on the police body cam footage. Clearwater Police Department confirmed the investigation at TMZ with a statement saying, "We have been in communication with family members, including his son Nick and daughter Brooke. The unique nature of this case has required us to interview multiple witnesses and seek medical records from a variety of providers, and our detectives continue to do that. All of this takes time. The Hogan family has been appreciative of our efforts and our communication with them." Sky Daly, who Bollea married nearly 2 years ago, his third marriage, told TMZ that Bollea's phrenic nerve was quote-unquote compromised during one of his recent surgeries. She also said an autopsy on him has been completed, but would not reveal its results. She also said his body has not yet been cremated. Now, Chris, take all these facts and tell me what you think, because I have a theory.
Okay, I guess it just depends on where I'm going with what I think. I just think he's going to have a very hard time, or his family, the estate's gonna have a very hard time getting the malpractice stuff to stick, given Hogan's kind of long history of medical complications, not great health. Like, there's a lot of shit going on with Hogan's health, or there always was, especially, even when he was in his latter days in WCW, he was, like always kind of being held together by, rubber bands and super glue. So there's that. We also visibly saw him decline sharply in the preceding several months here. But then you have like this whole like physical therapist is there and like it seems to be slow rolling calling the cops. I feel like maybe I'm trying to give the benefit of the doubt, or maybe the physical therapist saw Hogan die and all of a sudden like basically froze up because they were like, oh shit, I am now going to be suspect number one in this investigation. Like, kind of having this like pause moment. I don't know. Where you go with this?
I think everything you need to know about this is in the last sentence I read. Sky Daly, who Bollea married nearly 2 years ago, his third marriage, told TMZ that Bollea's phrenic nerve was quote-unquote compromised during one of his recent surgeries. I think she's the one who told the physical therapist that his phrenic nerve was quote-unquote compromised. Now, I don't know if his phrenic nerve was actually compromised or not. I know that accidents happen, and that's not really malpractice, per se. Malpractice is if you can prove that they were negligent in cutting it, not that it's accidental in the course of care.
Right.
And because I'm going through a medical malpractice thing right now, I have read up on all these things. I think
are you thinking that Sky Daly tried to riff him using the physical therapist?
No, I'm thinking Sky Daly is trying to riff the city. I think she wants. I think she wants, or the hospital. I think the meal ticket's gone. The Hogan estate's going to be split amongst the children and the ex-wives and her probably. But she has a certain standard of living that she is now accustomed to. And I think the reason that there's been no results revealed about the autopsy and the body has not yet been cremated is to get the hospital to settle. That's what I think is happening here. Because, hey, they have insurance. They can just settle instead of going through a long, arduous process of a attorney that I hire on contingency who will get a portion of the winnings if we go to court, quote unquote. Yeah, I think this is a ruse. I think you don't go to TMZ about important medical stuff. I think the source is problematic, and I think they're willing to do. I mean, look, TMZ was also the place certain people went to leak about Hogan's sex tape too, that nobody would buy, and then eventually,
Sky Daly's got to be really careful about this because she's starting to seed the wind a little bit with this notion that, like, oh, the physical therapist knew about this damaged phrenic nerve. And if you know enough about the medical implications of such an injury, and you know that could be potentially life imperiling, that's enough to start getting people to ask questions and maybe want to look in further. So you got to be real careful about what you say, and going to TMZ is stupid.
I agree. I think this is a telephone situation in many ways. I think, maybe Hogan and Sky Daly, who are very angry. Look, when my father passed, my father probably had a medical malpractice suit going because his doctor was doing some things that were really injuring him in some ways, but he didn't have much of a case probably because he was also doing radiation therapy, which was severely weakening him. So those other things would have other effects. Hulk Hogan was in bad physical shape.
Right. No, I know. I mean, like, this is why I brought up the riffing thing, because I'm like, he's actually in the perfect situation where, like, he's right at the edge of the cliff and you're just pushed him over and no one knows who pushed him. You know what I mean? Like there's so many different things here. It's hard to say what brought down the Jenga tower. And if Sky Daly is a gold miner, and it seems to me like she might be, there'll be questions, but let me tell you, even if it's something nasty.
Sky Daly does not sound like a name of a corporate banker in the greater Florida area.
Honestly, it sounds like the name of a news network. But
yes,
yeah, but beyond that, I tend to think. I tend to think she's going to get away with it. And if something nasty did happen to Hogan, that's kind of the fruits of what you seeded through your entire life, right?
Right.
Like if it did, in a way, we reap what we sow, Hulk.
That'll do it for the news. Now for the lazy river of wrestling criticism. And there's going to be a lot of criticism. Whatever we watched, whatever we had time for, do I want to throw it to Chris first, or do I want to just do the Forbidden Door preview? You know what? I'm going to throw it to Chris to get a positive out there before we start snarking a bit, because Chris, during NXT, wrote me and called that Javon Evans versus Trick Williams match on par with Undertaker versus Mick Foley, Hell in the Cell?
No. I did not say on par. I said it was basically structured like Foley and Undertaker's Hell in a Cell match, that you had big, like 3 or 4 huge spots, and the huge spots, because there was some actual injury there, had sufficient time to breathe and get a sense of bigness. We are always complaining on this show that people do crazy things, crazy spots. I mean, insane stuff. AEW in particular. I mean, Sting jumping from the rafters, jumping from like super high places and landing on people at like 62 years old. And those spots happen. Everyone's up 20 seconds later. It's like, bop, 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 bop. We're punching again. Like, as though it meant nothing. Trick Williams versus Javon Evans. When Williams launches Evans into that table and it clears out Corey Graves Evans goes through the table. His head hits the back of the office chair, an office chair like I'm sitting on that's got one of those nasty roller legs that the back of your skull absolutely should not wall up. I mean, obviously unsafe. I don't want to see people taking spots like that, but I do want to at least highlight that the cadence of the match shifted to what I feel is an appropriate level of slowness for a spot of that nature. You do something like that, you got to get across the idea of carnage. And carnage is only conveyed by like stoppage. It's a rest. If you want, it's not, in music terms, it's not blast of like, six tuplets or something like that. It's not, hit the double kick drum really fast. It's okay, we did that. Now we stop and there's just massive rest where we are soaking in, that was crazy. Whether it was a really fast blast of notes or a really fast spot. And like this match had that. I've never thought much of Trick Williams. I think in terms of his wrestling style, he still does not connect the dots between spot to spot. Everything is disconnected. There is no internal logic. He does not do an arm drag that transitions into a full Nelson, that transitions into a drop toe hold.
He's
I don't
not
even
doing
need that sequence.
He's not doing a performance. He's trying to remember the list of moves he's supposed to do.
Totally. There's no match strategy. And so actually, I think this match style played to his strengths and helped hit his weaknesses, which is Trick's good at the big spot. Typically, with some few exceptions, some nasty looking trick shots along the way here over the years. Generally speaking, Trick's actually quite good at delivering the big moment. It's the in between, the beats, the Bockwinkel fundamentals, you might say, that he lacks. So this match really hit that. And in terms of Evans, I think, look, everyone likes to say, oh, we can heat so-and-so up at any given moment. Oh, we can always get this guy at the drop of a hat. Johnny Hotshot's going to be hotter than ever. I know for the last 3 months, we've been having Johnny Hotshot clean toilets in the women's bathroom, and then he comes out with the janitor bucket, and that's his gimmick. But you need to understand, Johnny Hotshot's 2 moonsaults away from having this crowd eating out of the palm of his hand. That's not true. That's not true.
Hold on. I will also add for the other company. Or Johnny Hotshot had a 70-30 match with Kenny Omega. Or Johnny Hotshot had a great debut in a losing effort against Ricochet on Collision. They had a good match, so we can heat him up at any time. Continue.
He's a 450 splash away from making this shit all click. And the answer is no, he's not. Actually, what do you need to get a guy like that heated up? You need carnage spots like this, and you need an underdog match where they come off as this. And like, let's be frank here. Javon Evans shaved a couple of months, years off his life with this one. You don't actually want your talents doing spots like this. And yeah, it's okay when he's in his 20s, but if he did this spot in his 30s, we might have had to have the hospital, might have to get the stretcher out and get this guy medically out of here. Does it get Javon heated up again? Yeah. But here's the real punchline for Johnny Hotshot. As he's watching Javon's match here, Javon's still only halfway microwaved. He actually still has to do more stuff to get heated back up again. So I thought this was a great match. I thought this really highlighted the best of Javon Evans, who I've been very down on young Og, especially when he showed up and early on, he was just like, hey, I'm happy to be here, man. Like this, like smile and chuckles gimmick. He's now got a little bit of a streak about him, and I do appreciate that. And for Trick Williams' part, I've had enough Trick Williams for a long time at this point. Get him Carmelo Hayes and get him somewhere else. But I thought that this match, and maybe it is by virtue of the fact that wrestling here on TV over the last few weeks has not particularly delivered for me. I thought this match did.
I'm going to push back a little, and I don't disagree with you. I think, though, for guys like Javon Evans, And I'll even put in Ricochet on his WWE/NXT run here. Guys who are this athletic, I might even put Kevin Knight in some respects for AEW right here, and Ace Austin and other guys of that ilk. The very athletic 20-somethings who come in and you go, this is the future of wrestling. Or Dave Meltzer will say that. Man, I saw him on the indies. This is the future of wrestling, this kind of athleticism, blah, blah, blah. Will Ospreay was like this when he was 18, 19 years old. You need to develop a character. You do not get over with your big, high-flying, splashy, athletic moves unless they tie into your aura as a character. And that is when
I actually believed that line when they said that about MJF 5 years ago. Like, I did, when MJF first kind of came in, he was this idea that he was kind of the future of wrestling. I kind of bought that because he's a strong character.
His promo was fantastic.
Right.
But what I'm talking about is like people will push back. I mean, well, what about Muda when he was in Crockett? And I was like, Muda's entire moveset, though, was about being a killer. And that was his aura.
It wasn't mysterious.
It wasn't just he was doing the athletic moves. It was that he was doing athletic moves that would hurt you. And it was very impressive to do. Like that moonsault he was doing was
everything had mystique.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
right. It's not just moves.
What WWE and AEW and wrestling promoters worldwide do is they take advantage of this youth. And they go, hey, here's a moment you can have where you'll jump off. I mean, Logan Paul can do it, but Logan Paul does it for pay-per-views. He doesn't do it on weekly television. Okay? Think Logan Paul, guys, who is mad charisma and mad athletics. And yes, he will get up on top of a post and jump through Jelly Roll on a table, but he's jumping through Jelly Roll on a table at a pay-per-view at a moment.
At a pay-per-view, yeah.
At a pay-per-view. Not on the weekly television to then have to come up and build something over again. You have to protect yourselves in some ways and say no and say, I'll do it for a pay-per-view, but you got to pay me a little bit more. And I need to know what your follow-up's going to be. See, God, I'm still angry. I went to that Dallas WrestleMania that first time we met, and Zack Ryder won the Money in the Bank by killing himself going through ladders and stuff like that.
That's right. Yes.
And they jobbed him out the next day on Raw. And you're just like, what the F, dude? All these guys, like Ray Phoenix is the new one. You can do your big moves, Commander, but make them matter on a show and then use them in the other times for your aura and your character. And you'll get much further as a guy because, again, Javon Evans and Ricochet actually died at the same point at some time. Same as what was Evan Bourne. That was his name.
Yeah.
Matt Sydal. Once you take the RKO out of your awesome athleticism, you have 2 weeks to get back.
Futures of wrestling guys have like the shortest timelines. I mean, because I think wrestling journalists at this point should certainly know better that like the future of wrestling hyper athletic guys seldom break through purely on athletics. I mean, even a guy like Rey Mysterio, right? It took him 10 years at least to break through before he got the title. And it really took like a lot of character work and WWE-ification of Rey Mysterio to get him there. And
you want to know why? Because it's the same reason why Extreme Wrestling eventually died on mainstream television too. Because everybody goes, okay, we've seen that. What's next?
Well, I mean, it's honestly, it's like, why did Rob Van Dam not kind of get to that next level when like it seemed like in 96, 97, this guy, I mean, you look at Rob Van Dam 96, 97, he is like Mr. 1990s. I mean,
yes,
the look, the athleticism, the everything except the talking. And having that inability to tell stories absolutely limits what you can do with all the showmanship.
Yeah, it was just, hey, I'm a dude. Smoke weed. I'm cool.
I mean,
yeah, okay, great, but you're still a TV product, Rob.
Right.
You gotta tell a story here.
To analogize this to, what I teach my music students is, okay, on the back end of performance, right? Obviously, practicing your fundamentals, being good at your scales and everything is super important. You need to know your music. You need to know how to play. If you're doing leads, you need to know what you're doing, all of that. You need to have tremendous command. But when it's showtime, you need to assume that there's cameras on you, so you need to look good. There's a second layer to this. Like, in the same way that all the flips and the, moonsaults, the 450s, the Phoenix splashes, all that stuff's great. It is like being able to do the Eddie Van Halen taps. If you show up at showtime in Zumbas and a baggy t-shirt from Walmart, you are not doing the work. And you can't sit there and tell, and I've heard musicians say this, it sounds very similar to wrestling fans who try to tell me that the promos don't matter. They'll be like, why does it matter that the guy's in Zumbas, flip-flops, and a t-shirt when he is crushing it on the guitar? I go, because it's a visual thing, because there's more.
Yeah, and it's also in the presentation. You can have you can have the scales and you can have your fundamentals and stuff. But if you're playing the blues, your solo, you're singing. Your guitar is singing the blues right now. And so that's what the performance should be. And you should be emoting. I mean, look, I used to think like the Eric Clapton, just the eyes closed with the mouth open and stuff like that. And you're like watching and you're going, well, okay. I get it now. His guitar is singing the blues and he's going along with him. So it's all part of that performative thing. Much like, I think, it's like I hear Dave on Wrestling Observer Radio talk about the Friday night CMLL shows and all that other stuff. And you realize that what Dave really gets out of it is not because he'll say he likes, the moves and stuff like that, but he loves the pageantry of CMLL. He loves the pageantry of Lucha Libre too. And that gets lost in his analysis because he's almost afraid to go into it versus the work and stuff like that. So yes, this is television
and clearly for Dave. I mean, look, we've read and talked about enough Dave's writing through the years. Story's just not a big deal for this man.
No, he likes high spots. He loves high spots.
It's just not, and that aesthetic has rubbed off on a lot of people. And it's really worth noting that aesthetic is maybe perhaps as outspoken in its own sector as Vince McMahon's sense of aesthetic once was.
Yes.
Right. Like
big lumbering steroid clad dudes who are larger than life because what people are actually paying for is to come see something that they can't get at home. And they're coming to see the circus. For the most part. That's what Vince always thought, yeah.
No, but I definitely think, and both of them definitely forget that other people get something, engage with this text for a very different reason and get something different out of this, even inside of the same match, right?
Yeah, I'm going to lead this into our Forbidden Door preview.
Let's do it.
But, and this is a problem in all wrestling companies now, I'm finding.
Yeah. Should we close the Forbidden Door? Should it be locked and boarded over?
Well, that's not the point I was going for, but okay. But it also gets into the Bayley problem I'm having because I was watching Bayley talk to Mercedes because it was the 10th anniversary of Brooklyn, and if eyes are window to the soul, Bayley's absolutely miserable right now. That's all I'm gonna say. C.S. Lewis was not a fan of Frank Herbert's. I forget if it was C.S. Lewis or J.R.R. Tolkien, but one of them was not a fan of Dune. And it's because heroes to either Lewis or Tolkien, I can't remember which one, should do the right things for the right reasons. And in Frank Herbert's,
that's got to be a Tolkien thing, right?
Well, Lewis and Tolkien were both very heavily influenced by Christianity in their
right. Yeah, no,
like
I know. Yeah.
So I don't know which one it was, but Frank Herbert was very much heroes should be driven by what's best for them and the greater, quote unquote, greater good versus right and wrong type of a thing. And that's why one couldn't get behind the other's dune. And I'm finding that a lot in wrestling. And especially, look, it was a product of ruthless aggression back in the day where it's like, no, you don't have friends. You just have people you haven't used yet. And if it's good for you type of thing. But I'm finding the pure hero is severely lacking in wrestling, and it's starting to depress me again. And we haven't gone full anti-hero because the anti-hero thing was big in the late 90s and things like that, and it got sucked into television culture as well, where every show was about, here's this criminal and we're all going to root for him type of a thing.
I mean, I'm watching Dexter right now. Yeah, like
I just canceled that Dexter, by the way, the original Sin one.
Yeah. Not Resurrection. Resurrection's fucking fire. I'm sorry, pardon my French. But Resurrection's. Yeah, no,
they just canceled it, by the way.
No. There are two series, Jeff.
Oh,
there is the original Sin, and then there's Resurrection. And Resurrection's the one with Michael C. Hall, and it is fire.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, no. I
watched the original Dexter, and I kind of went, okay, there we are.
I think OG Dexter is basically, it's really good in season 4, pretty good in season 3, and the rest I could take or leave.
The John Lithgow season is fantastic.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah, season 4. But no, I'll say this: Resurrection is as good as Trinity Killer, maybe better at this point. It's a star-studded cast. I mean, like Peter Dinklage, Uma Thurman. It's
a who's who of serial killers, apparently.
It's a banger. But original Sin got canceled, but that original Sin stunk. Anyways, point being, Dexter is sort of like, you're talking anti-heroes and stuff, right? I mean, right around 2000, it's interesting, like post 9/11.
The Shield.
Right, we're even
Sopranos,
even Keith Sutherland's 24 like is like a merger of like late 90s low culture and then like immediately post 9/11 like paranoid about terrorism culture, like kind of rolled into one character.
We have a chance to talk low culture if we want.
No, I know. I saw the book. I'm totally down. Let's do it at some point here. Let's get that booked up.
Give me your schedule. That'd be a fun one. I'll figure that out.
Yeah. Cool, that'd be a fun one.
But we're at Forbidden Door, and my big problem with the go home show for Dynamite was we have a 30-minute tag team draw followed by attempted murder, followed by a women's tag match. Now, far be it from me to say that attempted murder should be your go-home segment. Not only that, but attempted murder should not... Look, there's a long history of people getting hit with cars and fireballs in wrestling that I'm fine with, but it's a guns and improv rule. Attempted murder should not be just okay when you're at work. And
right, like the Christopher Brito gun match, where we hang the gun in the middle of the ring.
And look, if you're going to hold somebody hostage for stuff, it shouldn't be for a wrestling match. It should be for the title. He should have asked Adam Page to give up the title if he's going to threaten to kill somebody, as opposed to, and I want these stipulations on my match. It was a very Bud Dwyer type of thing where it's like, and I want my old job back. No.
The funniest thing is, the stipulations. The stipulation. He is technically not. I mean, I don't understand the kayfabe on this because they're not really clear. So he did the promo last week where he gets suckered into using his contract for the match. But the way I understand it, the contract is technically not signed and executed till the day of the match or whatever. So why wouldn't he just leverage to get his contract back?
Well, he did.
Yeah.
He said, I don't have to give this up. But at the same time, it's like, look, if we're just negotiating stipulations and stuff, why do you even want the match? Just tell him to give up the title.
I'm going to go the flip on this. If you're going to write a segment where the next week he's going to leverage to get the contract back, what does that do for Adam Page? Right? Like that really cuts that man off at the knees. a little bit because he wasted all of his time last week trying to do this psychological okey doke, only to discover he's not actually capable enough to execute a psychological okey doke.
No, that's perfect. It's like, yes, I tricked Max. And Max comes back and Deus Ex Machinas it by kidnapping Mark Briscoe. And you're just like, and then because Tony Khan has Sam Shipman living rent-free in his head. Do you know Samantha Shipman, if I say the name?
No.
Sam Shipman is on Fight Game Media. She's part of the Power Bombshell. She also works for one of the aggregators, and she's on every single Ring of Honor and AEW media call. And she always has a question about the women's division that gets Tony a little squirming. You then undercut the women's division because in your head you're thinking, I need to treat the women's division equally to the men. So I'm going to put them in the main event slot in a tag team match following attempted murder. This is a TNA to the back situation, Chris, where it's like, so, and you were talking about with the Trick Javon thing. This should have some emotional resonance, and that emotional resonance should be, oh, I need to see what happens on this pay-per-view. But instead, it's, hey guys, are you ready for more wrestling? Here's a
there was no stop the show sort of aura. I mean,
wait, wait, did MJF just try to kill Mark Briscoe? We need to talk about that. No.
Where the hell is moral authority Tony Khan on that when he can show up and do really important moral things like put the two losers in the double draw in a tag match for the title after neither one of them could procure a victory? They both failed to secure victory. That is when you have a double draw, that doesn't mean they both lost, but it does mean neither one of them achieved winning. So they get rewarded for that.
Yeah, I'm just we may talk a little more Mark Briscoe when we get to the match, but let's get to the matches then.
Oh, they can heat him up at any second, Jeff. He's like a microwave.
Oh, in a reunion that tugged at the heartstrings.
Oh, God.
Adam Copeland and Christian Cage versus Kip Sabian and Killswitch, now filling in for Nick Wayne. The former Luchasaurus coming back. Brought back from the dead in a Frankenstein-like segment that, depending on whose jacket you thought it was either Christian himself or possibly Jack Perry. Copeland has the worst creative instincts of any wrestler I know. Because while you're doing something with some emotional stakes, he always wants to throw in some dumb comedy to take pressure off of it. And so the my asshole line, like, it's a lot like Jericho and his t-shirts. He's always looking for a chant.
Weird Gen X Canadian humor. Because there's something about the age and being from Canada that seems to really coalesce into this humor that is aging terribly.
He's always looking for the camera shot off look of somebody saying something inappropriate, like The Office, and you're just like, no, this isn't needed. He's Jim from The Office. No, you don't need that right now. You got enough here with Christian doing the work of, I'm still an asshole and I like myself. I was like, I think Christian's doing his role perfectly, because eventually
his
they're going to
line
lose.
Cracked me up. I've thought about it. I've done some soul searching, and I'm perfect as I am.
I am. Yes, because he's going to play his through line perfect, because that first time that these two lose, he's kicking Copeland right in the balls. And he's going to leave. And he's going to be, it's the scorpion and the frog. You always knew that I was a scorpion when you took me across the lake or across the stream or whatever. I do think that this program is eventually Kip's when Nick Wayne's ready. I thought Nick Wayne had a heck of a Nick Wayne is starting to become a promo guy, and I'm liking
him. And his mom are both really great screen presences.
Yeah,
I think they're both strong. I think obviously mother and son have great chemistry together too. This
Now,
is a guy who would actually go like, oh, future of wrestling, Nick Wayne and Mother Wayne. Yeah, potentially. The idea of Nick Wayne kind of channeling a little bit of Jim Cornette's Mama Cornette while also
that's
bringing
good. I like that. Yes.
bringing in like the high flying and everything like that. He's this hotshot stud, and mom thinks her kid is the greatest, thinks in sliced bread, and she's a jerk. I mean, there's a lot of legs to this act. They just need to get rid of Kip Sabian and this other crap. Like Luchasaurus and Kip Sabian are just dead weight.
Well, I think what this becomes, I think like my partner on my other show thinks that a lot of this is leading to a tables, ladders, and chairs match between Adam Copeland, Christian Cage, FTR, and the Young Bucks. I think it's going to be 5 or 6 teams. I think you're going to have Kip Sabian and Nick Wayne. Yeah. And I think this is going to somehow be the catalyst for Jack Perry coming back when Sabian and Nick Wayne beat down Killswitch, when the foot's better, and then Jack Perry and Killswitch are once again a tag team. But I think Cope and Cage win this one pretty handily.
Yeah, I think they have. I mean, to your point, they have to. I don't think this angle really has any tires on it after the first Cope and Cage loss. So they got to win.
A singles match for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Zack Sabre Jr. coming in from New Japan versus Nigel McGuinness with Daniel Garcia. Chris.
I'm looking forward to this match. I think that this has the potential to be a very entertaining match, both on the fundamentals and the character stuff too.
Who do you have? Zack Sabre Jr. is winning this. The only question is, does Daniel Garcia pull? Because there's this thing in me that says Daniel Garcia turns heel
on Nigel.
On Nigel because of the whole thing with the tag team before from. I can't remember the name of any of these cards anymore, but whatever that last one was, where they teamed up together. It was All In. Okay. Were they teamed? And because he was on commentary on Wednesday, and look, it wasn't great, but Bryan Danielson was an upgrade over Taz. I think Bryan Danielson may save Nigel McGuinness, which makes for interesting because Nigel McGuinness still buries Bryan Danielson on commentary on Collision, even though we don't watch a lot of Collision in this neighborhood.
I mean, that would be a bit surprising because AEW generally does not like to do the same angle twice in a show, and that this Danielson Nigel McGuinness thing would be very similar to Cope and Christian. So I would not expect them to do something like that because they're pretty dogged about those sorts of things. Disciplined, you might say. I always remember this show that ended with like chair shots every single match, like the DQ finish show.
Oh God, yes. Or run-ins, nothing but run-ins.
Yeah, the run-in finish episode of Dynamite. Yes.
Kyle Fletcher versus Hiromu Takahashi. In another, Kyle Fletcher 6'5", Hiromu Takahashi is 5'8". Kyle Fletcher's gonna win.
Well, yeah, sure.
Know. Takahashi is moving up to heavyweight in New Japan, and he's looking a little pudgy, but I think it'll still be a fun match. But Kyle Fletcher's obviously winning this one. Do you have any other notes on this?
No, I don't. I mean, although actually this will tie into my Vader Club here because we're talking about Wrestle Kingdom 9 because I want to bring the camera back 10 years ago here.
Okay. Let's continue then. Mercedes Moné versus Alex Windsor versus Persephone versus Bozilla, who is the daughter of Ulf Herman.
Is she not Persephone? Is it really Persephone?
They've been announcing it as Persephone.
Is it not? That's not Persephone.
I think you're exactly correct, and I think they've been doing I think it's possibly a Hispanic pronunciation as Persephone.
But, okay, all right. But
but now I'm sitting here, a man of letters and culture, and hating myself for reading this as Persephone instead of Persephone.
Yeah, right. Like Persephone and Demeter go down into the land of Hades.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
In a 4-way for the AEW TBS title, Mercedes Moné just won another British championship, so she is now 10 belts Moné. Is she 9 belts Moné after this?
I don't care.
I don't care either because
I know I can't name a single one of these belts, Jeff, so they don't mean anything.
Exactly.
And like, here's the thing: when Ultimo Dragon was running around with the 7 belts, because anyone who knows
they were important belts.
You love Dragon, Chris. You're right. Yes, they referred to all the belts as one thing: the Jade Crown title. The implication was that they had all been unified together.
Yes.
And this was the summation. He was carrying them around because it was the summation of the work. It was not. He was running around as the champion of 20 different things simultaneously, concurrently, and defending all those belts. I think does Windsor win?
I think Windsor wins because she's the girlfriend of Will Ospreay, and it's in the UK, and you get the hometown pop. And because Nigel McGuinness isn't winning, you get one hometown person winning. Maybe 2 if you count Timeless Tony, although she's Australian, but whatever. But yeah, I think they take one of these. I think they take the AEW TBS title off of Mercedes Moné here, and I just think that's dumb. But I think that's what happens. Speaking of which, Timeless Tony Storm versus Athena for the AEW Women's World Championship. I don't see any way in hell that Athena wins this, but they were teasing the neck.
I don't know. Because it feels like Tony's better in the chase than with the catch.
Yes, I agree. But
so I'm gonna go Athena just based on that logic, but I'm not committed to it or anything.
Okay. I think Windsor wins the TBS title and then feuds with
because Athena's got the briefcase or whatever too, right?
Well, no, this is her Casino Gauntlet Championship contract. Okay. There is no cash in. Because they were afraid of being too much like WWE, so Tony changed it, even though it was originally a cash-in. It's, yes. Again, one ear to the criticism instead of being confident in your booking. But, no, I think Chris Statlander and Alex Windsor then have a feud, and she wins the TBS title. And then Athena. Look, Athena has a good run. Like, Athena's weird because, like, I was watching that Collision promo because my co-host goes, this is the best promo of her career, but he wrote me that halfway through. And the part where she's being, like, evil is fantastic. And then she decides somewhere, much like, again, she is also someone with bad creative instincts that needs to be controlled a little bit per people in WWE who worked with her, who were telling us about this the whole time. Then she got to comedy. And it was like, ugh. No, you've just taken all the great stuff you did when you were being evil and totally cut it off at the knees. But we'll see how she is as a champ. In another match where, God, who could possibly care? Okada versus Swerve Strickland for the Unified Championship, because Swerve Strickland seems totally not into this. He's somewhat injured, and he's going to be taking some time off. So Okada's winning this.
Yeah, Okada's winning. This match is going to be... Man, there might be people who tell you this match is good, but I'm going to tell you this match is going to stink. It is not going to be good because both these guys are absolutely going to be half-assing it. And I got no usage for half-ass Okada. He's boring. At half speed, he stinks.
Tag team, it says elimination match for the World Tag Team Championship. I didn't think it was going to be an elimination match. I thought it was just a three-way match, but I guess it's elimination. The Hurt Syndicate versus Brodito versus FTR. And we had a 30-minute draw to get here. Is that maybe a double count out after 10 minutes?
Dude, time limit draw, like after watching this show this week, I new rule. Time limit draw has to be the absolute worst go home approach I can come up with. Where we give you 60 minutes of this shit and then we promise you 20 more at the pay-per-view. Or we give you 30 minutes of this shit and then we promise you 20 more at the pay-per-view. No one's asking for that. Like the time limit draw at the start of the angle right? You have a match 4 weeks prior. There was a time limit draw. It was inconclusive. And then a bunch of dramas ensued in the weeks building up to this. That's a great way to get things heated up because now there's been enough time gap between that initial time limit draw match and whatever the main match is going to be that like the expectations can be a little bit different. And we've had enough time as viewers to get some space here. When you hit me 3 days prior to the match I'm about to have, if I'm going to talk about, spoiler for Vader Club, I'm going to talk about Tanahashi and Okada. The last thing I want to see before Tanahashi and Okada have a match at Wrestle Kingdom is them have a 70-minute time limit draw before they go and have a 36-minute match the next night within the same week. Because guess what? The best wrestlers ever in history do not have 90 minutes of interesting shit in their repertoire with any given pairing.
No, they're going to play the same hits. They're
going to play the same hits over and over again. And they're going to drag shit out. You're not getting the best. You're getting a lot of it. It's oatmeal. It's not filet mignon.
It's Golden Corral.
It's Golden Corral.
Oh, I was so, I hated this match because I didn't believe the blood was needed. Because I'm watching this, I'm going, this isn't a particularly heated match.
No.
FTR and Brodito. And then once the blood hit, there was no panic on the babyface's part, and there was no sadism on the part of FTR. They were still just kind of doing a wrestling match. And I'm kind of going, they're missing the emotional arc of this entire story. And I think they're doing it in service of this three-way. Because I think the story of the three-way, because I thought it was just going to be one pinfall, is that Brody King's blood loss on Wednesday is going to lead to him taking the ultimate final fall from FTR in this tag team match. They're going to find a way to get the Hurts in to get out because I think, number one, I think Bobby Lashley is going to be Hangman Page's next opponent. And number two, I think they're not coming back and getting re-signed after November. So it doesn't matter because of MVP and the rumored antics and things like that. I think they're just, these are WWE guys, we're going to let them go type of a thing, which is unfortunate. But you're watching that match and all of a sudden Brody King is bleeding like a stuck pig where it doesn't really belong. Sure, the thing from Stokely's cast was a big shot. But Bandito and Brody King then go, we need to hurry this up and get a pinfall because Brody King may lose all his blood and faint. No. We're still just doing here's a dive spot. Here's a slam spot. He's going to crawl across and try and get a pin or try and get a tag spot. It was just a normal tag team match after that. And it was just 30 minutes of it. And then now I'm going to have to watch 30 minutes.
No. The last minute was the worst, though. So, before we get to the last minute, look, especially if it's going to be blood loss and everything like that, if you're going to do a blood spot, I don't care which company we're talking about here, going back to the Javon Evans, Truck Williams example, I need action to stop. I need the person in question who has drawn blood to have a react, regather, reassess, facial reactions, kind of recompose themselves. Referee checks on them. We stop action. Because if you just draw blood and then there's another suplex and then there's a chair shot, and the blood doesn't mean anything. People are just scarring up their foreheads and nobody remembers even those key spots. They don't have any sort of iconic quality to them. Both companies are using blood way too regularly now at this point. It's stupid. It's stupid, and they're not
John
getting
Moxley
anything out of it.
especially because he'd do it weekly on AEW television.
And they're not getting anything out of it. It's all you're getting is scar tissue on your forehead. I don't see the logic. I really don't.
I don't either.
And the final 30 seconds, I want to go back to this.
Okay.
Dude, this is my problem so much with this company. There is no psychology in these matches. So you can tell me this spot was great or that spot was great. But if you are going to do a time limit draw, both of these teams should be thinking, if we do not get a win in the final 60 seconds, we are both going to be eliminated.
Right.
Ipso facto, we need to actually do something. And one of the two teams goes out and spends half of the remaining minute trying to manifest a table for a table spot that never, like, they can't even get executed in the ring. And these are, oh, by the way, supposed to be the KG tag team veterans, and this is their strategy. These guys who understand tag team psychology super well, they're the ones pulling out the table for a table spot that could not possibly translate into a victory in 60 seconds, save for everything going absolutely perfectly. And they have a manager who should be counseling them otherwise on this too.
Yes. That's the whole point of having a manager, is he manages the team. He should be telling them that's bad strategy. But no, there's a lot of hate about I love FTR, but man, this match just drove me nuts.
Oh God, dude, this finish was so stupid, especially from an FTR standpoint. Like, I would expect the headbangers to make this kind of mistake where they're like crazy dudes who like heavy metal and like they just like jumping through stuff and hurting people. But FTR are not those guys. They're trying to win stuff. They're deliberate, methodical, and they're like tag team specialists.
And then they're telling me a story on commentary they're not telling me in the ring about how Brodito has really gelled as a tag team these past few weeks. And I'm just watching going, no, it's just Bandito does his moves and Brody King does his moves. And occasionally
these guys have no chemistry. None chemistry.
I don't think so either. I'm just watching going, I understand a lot of people like Brody King. I kind of like Brody King, but Brody King has never had. He does. I mean, it's a lot like when I was watching Brody Lee or Luke Harper. I like him, but he hasn't had a new personality since he's got to this company. He's the same dude, and he does the same moves. And yeah, he's a big guy who dives, but he does the dive every week, so it's not all that special to me.
Yeah,
like Drew McIntyre waits to do the somersault senton or plancha or whatever you want to call it. The somersault dive that he does, that's very impressive when you see it live. He waits for pay-per-views to do that. Again, wait for the big moments, because if you do it weekly, we're just wondering what's next. So we get to the singles match for the AEW World Championship. Hangman Adam Page versus MJF. Hangman is counted out or disqualified. He'll lose the title. Here's another problem with the story they were telling, Chris. What is the most logical conclusion to what they did on Wednesday in terms of feeding into the ending of the match on Sunday? Pop quiz for the story writers out there.
I mean, the most logical thing is that Page gets himself disqualified somehow. Like, MJF kind of tricks him into a disqualification.
The most logical, which they will not do, is for Mark Briscoe to come out and to attack MJF.
And that gets him disqualified.
Correct.
Yeah.
But they won't do that.
No.
Because it's stupid to do that right now when you've just given Adam Page the title back.
But now they've also just stupidly over-leveraged this in favor, in the same way that MJF tricking Adam Page into completely undermining all of his psychological work 2 weeks prior and making him look like a goofus. This is going to make like MJF look like a goofus because he has rigged the card dramatically in his favor up to and including getting his contract back.
Yes, he has. And that's going to be what I think goes into the ending. Because let me tell you what I think the ending of this is going to be. I think Mark Briscoe is going to come out and they're going to tease. I think this entire match has been overthought of and over-clevered. And what's going to happen here is Mark Briscoe is going to come out. Now, you could do one of two things. You could have Mark Briscoe hit Adam Page and turn heel, which I think is stupid. But I don't think that's what's going to happen either. I think they're going to tease that for a moment. They're going to tease that, and then they're going to go back to the Hurt Syndicate MJF story. And the Hurt Syndicate's going to come out. And they're going to be smiling and high-fiving MJF and whatnot. And then Bobby Lashley is going to give MJF a thumbs down. MJF is going to cover up thinking that Bobby Lashley is going to hit him. And Bobby Lashley is going to slug Hangman Page for the disqualification, thus screwing MJF and hoisting him by his own petard by having a disqualification as part of the match. And then it leads to Hangman Page versus Bobby Lashley. I think that's what happens here.
I'm going to go another direction. I don't think that happens because normally in AEW, they'll set up all this stuff with all these check-off guns and then no one grabs the gun at any point.
Actually, that's a great point.
I think
I'm overthinking that this is logical.
He's just going to hit the dead eye and the buckshot lariats.
Oh, my God. Because I'm sitting here as a writer going, the ending's in the beginning. And so obviously the most logical, buckshot 1, 2, 3, and MJF still has his friggin' contract that he can cash in at any time. And none of this matters. And it's, you had the power to go back to Kansas all along, Dorothy. All you had to do was click your heels 3 times and you'd be back there.
I am legit calling Deadeye, Buckshot Lariat. MJF doesn't even cash in the
contract. God. If that happens, Chris, number one, seriously, though,
the fact that that's plausible is to me the damning indictment on a lot of the writing of AEW over the last several years here. That is so a backed up with textual evidence take on this, and it shouldn't be.
I watched that and I went, I'm thinking about what would happen if that happened. And it was just, there was no all the interference happens after the match. And it's just buckshot 1, 2, 3.
2, 3. And then everything
I'm just sitting
happens
here with
after.
my jaw dropped open and going, what the F was that? Because that's such a perfect Tony ending too. It's like,
that's such a Tony ending
because we need to judge on the star ratings first, and then we'll have the emotional connection of the angle following it, and that's where we'll really
hook the story to get in the way of the star ratings, Jeff.
Yes, we can't ruin Meltzer and Paul Fontaine and Joe Lanza's notebook. We can't ruin the snowflake ratings of the match with things like angles and heat. So we have to have a perfectly fine, cromulent, technical match that's 4 1/4 stars. I'll be great inflated to 5 3/4 because it's better than perfect. Then we'll do all the angles.
Jazz school guitar mentality where it's like, man, that deployment of augmented triads was insane. How was the song? It was a piece of shit, but you should have heard the way he used all those diminished chords.
He played the jazz scale very well in that song. It made absolutely no sense because it was Rachmaninoff, but he played the jazz scale in the middle of it.
I've never heard Night Time played that well. What did you think of the piece? Terrible.
Lincoln was shot in the middle of the play and ruined my enjoyment of that totally crappy Our American Cousins.
Such a shame.
I have nothing to say about the main roster, oddly enough, other than I like Solo Sikoa's comedy chops, and congratulations to Naomi. I'm happy for her.
Big congratulations to Naomi.
It's one of those things like Becky Lynch at the same time. You're getting pregnant, and look, I'm not one of those. Look, I made a Maria Kanellis crack, but that's because she always got pregnant right around contract signing time. I have no problem with the women because there are other people like, she's at the height of her career. Why is she getting pregnant now? It's like, dude, I have no problem with this. Mazel, mazel, good things. I like people having more children, and I am happy that they are not waiting until she is done with wrestling to have one. Yes, it's in the middle of her best run. Yes, I'm a little sad I won't be able to see that character, but I'm happier for the person than I am sad about the character. Stop
And she
that,
can always
wrestling
come back.
people.
She can always come back with the Owen Hart tribute at some other point. I like it.
Yes.
I like this character. I guess my only real note on the main roster here is this week we did get to see because we've kind of talked about this conjecturally of like what if we did actually get to see Mr. Iguana work in front of an American WWE audience, and I think there was a bit of a lost in translation thing with this gimmick and American audiences. Like, so a lot of the kid stuff did not connect. And you could see in that first beat of the match where he came in and tried to do the I'm dead thing and all the other stuff, people were not going there with him. And so he ended up having to change gears to like actually doing pure lucha, which he is sort of, I would say, I think he's in terms of the lucha fundamentals, a little below average. He's not bad, but he's not great. I've seen a
He's
lot
more
better
of a character than he is a wrestler.
He's a character guy. Yeah, exactly.
with
And
this.
so like
Go ahead. Sorry,
if the character doesn't land, that guy's dying a death out there. It's hard to watch.
We need more conditioning to the American audience of what his gig is, and I think that's part of it too. Is not enough.
Totally.
It's Tony Khan.
It's actually it's the AEW lesson of
where you
like,
think everybody knows everything he's done in his past.
Mr. Iguana is. Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you something because I watched part of that Triple Mania and we didn't get a chance to talk about that. I think that's also part of the reason why they've given Finn Balor a hand puppet. Just in case. Now, just a couple things on what I liked in Triple Mania. Yes, I liked Puppet versus Puppet. Made me laugh. I also howled at Microman versus Omos in a battle royal. Book that for WrestleMania, and I will cackle with glee, Chris.
Look,
I'm a Caminito guy. I love Caminito.
Omos was a really great presence. The problem was that they tried to make him into a wrestler, and he never really should have been.
Yes, yeah. No, this is what he should do, is he'd come out for battle royals every so often, and he should be the narrative fulcrum of how do we get this giant man out of this battle royal.
Yeah, right. And he's in a mid-card tag team where like, you know, like
Satnam Singh, they do a good job of Satnam, and I mean, they don't use Satnam enough because he's a better wrestler. No,
but there's a lot of character stuff, and the guy definitely understood the character side of this. I don't know. I think they gave Finn Balor a puppet with the demon. They gave him a demon puppet, for those of you who didn't watch Triple Mania. I think they gave that to him in case Mr. Iguana dies a death in front of American audiences. And so we now still have a puppet type thing, because puppets get over. Even though AEW burned a pile of money not getting those Mercedes puppets out there mass produced for fans. They did, because these iguana and demon puppets are going to sell a mint with the kids, I think. But so there's that. Yeah, and outside of that, I mean, I don't really have a ton else to say about the main roster. We mentioned over on AEW Tanahashi here on AEW TV. I mean, he looked rough. We already broke that down here. So I guess
I'll put one thing on the main roster, because I told you this pre-show. I enjoyed the Logan Paul John Cena promo battle, because look, John Cena is doing his in his sleep babyface promo, and there's nothing wrong with that. But Logan Paul knows when to stop and address the audience when they're heckling him to death to get more heat. He has a good gimmick in terms of, I'm an outsider, but I shouldn't be, because I still show up to pay-per-views and do it. It's a fourth wall breaking thing about outsiders versus actual workers type things that they're doing. And I usually don't like that stuff, but Logan Paul's also the guy who goes, I'm better than most of the full-time guys here, and I'm still doing it. So it's a different spin on it. And he is such a unlikable jerk. And him and Drew McIntyre are perfect foils for one another as scheming heels, because Drew McIntyre came out getting babyface pops and somehow turned that crowd against him too. I'm enjoying the Logan Paul Drew McIntyre team up here.
All right, so now just swing it over here to Vader Club this week. I'm bringing us back 10 years to Wrestle Kingdom number 9. This is actually got my favorite of the Tanahashi and Okada matches. They have a number of good ones. I really like the one that.
Pause. Do you prefer Tanahashi versus Okada or Omega versus Okada?
Tanahashi versus Okada, which is why I chose Tanahashi versus Okada.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Some people prefer Omega.
So they had a number of good matches, including at the G1. And I like, obviously, even the finish of this at Wrestle Kingdom 10. But the one for me that just really, I think, cemented my connection with that era of New Japan, because like I was up late at night or early in the morning, as it were. I had been working as a closed captioner. I came home and I watched all of Wrestle Kingdom 9. And this match between Okada and Tanahashi was just fantastic because Okada could not quite climb the mountain. And he tried his damnedest. He did everything he possibly could to try to defeat Tanahashi, the aging legend, whom he smelt weakness in. And he smelt that age and time was catching up to this guy. And he was so damn close. But the Tanahashi, in the end, not quite washed yet, not Tanahashi managed to, we saw Tanahashi this week. Tanahashi came out and he ended up hitting, the umpteenth high fly flow. To me, I love this match because it's like a beautiful synthesis of New Japan style, but also there's a lot of WWE-isms. Number of Rainmaker clotheslines, number of high fly flows. We towards the end, we are going back to our big AA RKO style thing, getting these near falls, but each one has the crowd more and more into it. And then upon defeat, Okada shatters and he gives an acting performance. It's one of his greatest of his entire career. Okada being broken in this moment was the moment for me where he was a star. You can put the belt on anybody. You can have Rain of Money fall down from the sky. You can give anyone a bitchin' theme song. You can put a leather jacket on anybody. But it takes a certain someone to get you to go there with their defeat to where you feel it for them. And Okada really sold that by the amount of effort and intensity and the quality of his performance in the match. And then in the effort and the intensity and the quality of his visual performance post-match, most of which was not done on mic or anything. It was just him in the ring, rerunning that whole match in his mind, thinking about everything he did and not being able to come up with anything he could have done differently and realizing he came up short and being absolutely broken by that. Obviously, the following year, he comes back and wins in fulfillment of the story. But, man, that is so much less interesting narratively. As I said, anyone could do the confetti falls from the rafters moment, right? You give me the Rocky music in the background. Tyler Shire runs in and goes, "Oh, Chris, you did it!" And the all right, great. Anyone can look like a champion. You do the montage. It takes a certain special somebody to be able to make the defeat want you to scream, "Get back up and keep fighting, bud." And Okada totally delivers that.
It takes that first Rocky where he loses the match. And even Apollo Creed's like, "There's gonna be no rematch. He's just like trying to run away. You're like, yeah.
Rocky. That's why Rocky one's the best. It's why it's the best Rocky, right?
Yes.
He loses, but he loses in such a way that it's clear he won in very demonstrable ways. And that is just way more compelling and interesting, more demanding in terms of the acting performances by all parties involved, including Tanahashi, who realized that he won, but man, his time has passed. And, it's like I hung on because I got pride, I got fighting spirit, but I can't do it like I could 10 years ago anymore.
I was trying to think of performances where somebody lost and they had that kind of moment. And the only one that's readily available to me was Becky Lynch in NXT when she lost to Sasha for the title on the arm bar, and she's sitting there crying with her arm kind of held like this, and she's kind of shaking and stuff. I don't think they ever really did that effectively enough in the NWA because it was always, dusty finishes or whatever, where it's like they'd lose that first one and you'd want to see them come back, but they never had that moment of vulnerability because you never wanted that in the 80s in terms of, you don't want to feel like, you gave it all and then you just were short, so you're frustrated at it. You never wanted to get that, for lack of a better term, lack of alpha moment out of a wrestler. They may have done it with Barry Windham on that first one. I can't remember, but those moments are few and far between. And for me, just to bring this back to the beginning, that New Japan roster at the time had charisma up the ass with guys like Nakamura, I think, was still there at the time.
Yeah. No, he's there for another year or so. Yeah.
Is AJ Styles with the company yet or not?
I think
10 years ago.
He's definitely, he is. He actually defeats Daito on that same card. Yeah, your lead up to this is Nakamura versus Ibushi, and then Styles and Naito.
Ibushi, Naito, who is just, when you have the work rate and it's fine, but that's not what gets you in the door. It's the guys who are connecting with their character and that part of it. And look, I like Will Ospreay. I think he's a great. Oh, we forgot that match on Forbidden Door. Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi, who weren't on Dynamite. Darby Allin, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Will Ospreay versus the Death Riders, the Young Bucks, and Gabe Kidd.
I got to assume the baby faces win that match.
I think they put out Ospreay here for the neck injury. I think we're getting the ascent of the Death Riders
not
again.
More Death Riders, more Death. This is
why
I think the main event. This is why the main event's got to be Deadeye Buckshot. No, nothing matters.
The War Dogs, because this is the last match on the card, because it's a lights out steel cage match. God, I couldn't. I had forgotten about it because I just assumed it was just like, all right, whatever. Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think they're gonna let Ospreay get the W here as he's going away, but we'll see.
And then beat him down afterwards because we had.
Right. Who knows? All
right. Well, enjoy Forbidden Door. Let's end it there.
You see, you keep making this mistake of thinking that the ending is told at the beginning, but that is so not how this company works.
I know.
The ending is whatever I'm vibing on that afternoon.
It's like, it's like I watched the new Superman and I didn't like it because I was like, Superman's just lost his first fight. Oh, great. I'm hooked. Here I am. And now that has no emotional resonance and it becomes Superman and a bunch of B-list Justice Leaguers in the wisecracking Justice League hour for an hour before we get back to, he has to fight. Never mind. But I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me. He just lost his first fight. Let's explore that. That's interesting. Oh, we'll get back to it eventually. No, that should be the crux. Nevertheless, I'm at Crap Game 13 on X. You can follow the show at Shake Them Ropes. I do a show called The Dynamite Show on Fight Game. We go at 7:20/10:20 every Wednesday on YouTube. Drops in your podcatchers for free. Chris is on Instagram. He plays with the Rasta Band. He's going to talk to you about it now.
This is my cat, Hazy. She's cool. My name is Chris. You can find me on Instagram, DOCTOR_NOV. Play with a band called Elevated Roots. Give us a follow. You can find us on Spotify, although you cannot hear me playing with them, but you can definitely check out their old recordings and stuff prior to the Nova era, and I'm sure they would appreciate that. Give us a follow. I will be recording with them here when I finally get back from my shoulder surgery here, which will be at the end of September. However, for all of you out there in wrestling land, you're stuck with me because I have nothing else to do but watch wrestling now, so brace for impact.
The end is in the beginning.